No joke. I started recording this and I guess my computer didn't like this list so much so that my computer crashed on me. So we're going to try this again. So this was sent to me by somebody in my Discord. They sent me a list because people have been wanting me to rank the Resident Evil games, which I've done a ranking before, but I haven't done it in a while. Plus, the rankings change every year, considering that new games release every year. And with all that in consideration, this list is coming from Kotaku. They're ranking the Resident Evil games from worst to best. So we're gonna go ahead and read this, and I will give you my thoughts on it. The Resident Evil series is arguably the most successful and popular video game franchise of all, horror franchise of all time. It spawned more movies, spin-offs, and comics than I can count. You're forgetting books, like books. And has easily cemented itself in mainstream pop culture as those zombie games with dogs. But not all Resident Evil games are amazing. So the time has come to grab our shotguns, green herbs, and typewriter ink ribbons and rank all the games in the main series from worst to best. Now I have a problem with this. Okay, he says main series. So ground rules for this list, we're only focusing on the main games in the series. So spin-offs like Revelations and Dead Aim get a stay of execution. We're also only judging the original releases. So while I love the remake of Resident Evil 2, I won't be raving about it here today. Finally, we're staying away from multiplayer and handheld titles too. This list is purely about the numbered games with two exceptions that fans can probably predict. Well, I know one of them is going to be Code Veronica. I mean, hell, you have the character up here on the screen. My thing is, if you're including Code Veronica, then you need to include Revelations 1 and 2, and you also need to include the remakes of Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, because those are numbered games, and those are mainline entries in the series. Revelations 1 and 2 are not mainline entries, but if you're excluding spin-offs, you need to exclude Code Veronica. Code Veronica is a spin-off as well. Originally, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis was supposed to be the spin-off, but they gave Resident Evil 3 the numbered title, and they gave Code Veronica the spin-off treatment. So, in technicality, Code Veronica is a spin-off, and if you are including that, you need to include the Revelations games. I'd excuse you for not excluding Dead Aim, but Revelation, for sure, that would need to be included. Revelations 1 and 2. Because those are close enough to mainline entries that you should include them. Anyways, let us start the show. Resident Evil 6. I agree with this one. Shocking nobody, RE6 winds up last on our list. This is the worst game in the main series. That's not a hugely controversial opinion, though I know some folks have started to come around on the 6 numbered entry more in recent years. My thing is that it's an alright game as an action game. It's just not a good Resident Evil game. I always thought it was a fun, dumb action game with a workman-like co-op and tiny bits of horror sprinkled throughout. It's not the worst game ever made, not even close, but compared to past Resident Evil titles, it's a misfire. That said, Leon's campaign is good. I'll stand by that. Leon's campaign is good. It's the only good thing about the game, in my honest opinion. But even Leon's campaign gets boring if you play it more than once. This here is where it starts getting weird for me. Why would you put Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil, as your second worst game? Please direct all angry comments and tweets to me. Oh, I will. I'm sorry. I know some of you reading this list will super disagree with the original game ranking this low. Yes. But it's a hard game to go back to. No, it's not. It's not because of tank controls, though they don't help. It's more that a lot of what makes this game clunky and rough would get cleaned up in following games. Not necessarily, and I said this before my computer crashed on me. If you are saying that this game is clunky and rough, and you include Resident Evil 2 at a much higher spot, then this game should be a much higher. It should be much higher on your ranking list. Specifically because if you don't judge Resident Evil 2 for their clunkiness and rough edges, and you rank it high, then you're completely contradicting yourself. Because Resident Evil 2 is still clunky and rough around the edges. While it's historically important and has its charms, it ultimately hasn't aged well as most of the rest of the series. I agree that it hasn't aged well, but it's still very easy to get back into. Resident Evil 5. I would actually swap this with Resident Evil 1, then maybe. Resident Evil 5 takes what Resident Evil 4 introduced, a new camera angle and improved shooting, and adds a lot more action, plus some co-op. But it adds too much. And the end result is a messy, sometimes fun, and totally bonkers Resident Evil adventure. Oh yeah, it's off the walls. RE5 also contains a neat contains neat callbacks to the franchise's past and introduces Sheva, a character who totally needs to come back. That's absolutely right, she does. None of this erases its often R-word and crappy depiction of African people, which still leaves a sour taste in my mouth over a decade later. This right here, none of this erases its often R-word and crappy depiction of African people. If this bothers you, then guess what? If you rank RE4 high up there and you don't put none of this erases its often R-word and crappy depiction of Spanish people, which still leaves a sour taste in my mouth over 2 decades or whatever it is since RE4 released. I think it released in 2004. I don't remember. It's been a while. But if you don't have this same statement and replace African with Spanish, then you know what? You don't get to talk, because this game takes place in Africa. What do you expect? You expect to encounter African people who are infected, just like in RE4, because the game takes place, I believe, in Spain or close to Spain. You expect to encounter Spanish people who are infected. That's what it is. The game took place in Japan. Guess what? You expect to see Japanese people who are infected. RE6 took place in China. Chinese people infected. Like, if that doesn't bother you, because that statement wasn't in RE6. If that doesn't bother you, this shouldn't bother you. That's all I'm saying. RE0. We're on number 5 out of 12. Well, actually, the first slide doesn't count because the first slide wasn't a judgment. So, the problem with ranking Resident Evil games is that pretty quickly you start having to rank some good stuff lower than the even better stuff, and then all of that rank lower than the downright great games. In other words, it's not easy. RE0 is where this feels most troubling, as the game featured gorgeous visuals and some genuinely terrifying moments. The segments set on a claustrophobic train are tense even today, but it ends up down here because its narrative goes off the rails towards the end. I agree. And the companion AI can often be annoying. Not more annoying than Sheva, and not more annoying than Ashley. If you put RE4, I have a feeling this guy ranked RE4 number 1. I have a feeling. If you rank RE4 number 1 and you don't complain about Ashley's AI, or just Ashley in general, nope. All right. Let's RE3, Nemesis. RE3 started life as a spin-off, but okay, I'm glad you mentioned that. After some shakeups at Capcom, it was promoted to be the next main entry in the original PlayStation. Even with this strange origin and its atypical development cycle, RE3 ended up being a solid take on what we now see as a classic RE formula. It also gave players new insight into events in RE2, introduced the iconic Nemesis enemy, and brought back fan favorite Jill Valentine as a protag. Not bad for a game that was planned to be a spin-off. I'm going to guess the next game is Code Veronica. Why was I on top of that? Like, oh, come on. For some fans of the series, this is a real sequel to RE2. You could say the same thing about RE3 being a real sequel to RE1. I can break down this guy's whole statement. Code Veronica, first released on the Dreamcast, takes place after the events of RE2 and improves the controls, visuals, and overall gameplay of the past titles in a big way. Jumping to a new console will do that. Sadly, it seems like Capcom has mostly forgotten about this classic entry in the series, with no official news of a remake. Nevertheless, Alexandra wants me to mention Alexandra. Alexia? You mean? Wants me to mention that Steve Burnside is one of the worst characters Capcom ever came up with. Unless Alexandra is somebody else that's sitting right next to him. I don't know who Alexandra is. And Steve Burnside is pretty bad. He's pretty bad. Would I rank Code Veronica that high though? I can name a few things that Code Veronica suffers from. It has a big problem with backtracking, needlessly backtracking, throughout the entire game. But we just okay. Village. Village, we still got 4 more games. The most recent game in the series is also one of its best. Building off the success of Resident Evil 7, shift to first person, Village pulls in RE4 and adds more action and gunplay to the formula. And like RE4, it mostly works out. This might not be as scary or moody as RE7, but Village gave us Lady Dimitrescu, which I don't care. And that's a special gift I can't ignore. I really don't care about Lady Dimitrescu. I like the daughters more. Anyways, plus it was just a solid horror shooter that I can expect I'll replay a few times over the next few years. I've beaten this game to hell, and it's just a better RE4. Honestly, I would rank this higher than RE4, and considering how RE4 hasn't shown up here, I'm gonna guess that they're putting RE4 on top. I would legitimately rank this higher than RE4 because this is what RE4 wanted to be. Resident Evil 2. Okay. All right. So then you're ranking RE7 higher than RE2? Okay. I can see it, but I don't wholly agree, but I can see it. Some sequels build only slightly on what came before. Other follow-ups like RE2 take everything and improve it to the whole shebang in one giant leap forward. Almost every part of the sequel is an improvement over the first. Visually more impressive. It also features more scares. No, it doesn't. It's about the same as far as scares go. Better puzzles. Not really. It's about the same. And more diverse areas to explore. Let's see. So in RE1, you have the main mansion. You have the guardhouse. You have the underground area, then you have the Umbrella Lab. In RE2, you have Raccoon City, which is just the beginning. You have the RPD, the sewers, and the Umbrella Lab. Same amount of areas to explore. Not to mention the changing scenarios that you can play through. I'll give you that. Giving the game a ton of replayability. I will give you that for damn sure. The zapping system in this, I wish was something that they kept in the remake. There are very good reasons why this classic was a huge hit at the time. Oh yeah, I mean, I would actually rank this higher, but whatever. RE7. Considering how there's 2 more slides, what games are missing? So just RE4 and what else? I don't see what other game is missing here. Some of you will be surprised that one of the FPS era Resident Evil games made it up this high. I'm not. I loved RE7. I would actually rank RE7 probably 3rd on my top 5 list or something like that. But here's the thing, RE7 rules. It's one of the scariest games in the series. Feels like a clean break from the overbearing lore of the past games and introduces a whole new style of RE gameplay. This is a franchise that has always evolved over time, maybe more so than any other popular series, so it made sense that Capcom would shake things up after the lackluster reaction to RE6, even though RE6 is still one of Capcom's top-selling games. I'm just going to mention that. This is the game that brought me back into the series and one that I love to replay whenever I need a good scare. I love RE7 way more than I love Village. Like, I will replay RE7 over RE Village any day. The game just feels scarier. It feels so good to play this game. It really does. RE4. What a surprise. Yeah, contain your shock at RE4 ending up at the top. This is the top, so then there's nothing else. Huh. Okay. RE4 ended up, so RE7 is your second best? I would have put RE2 there. I would have swapped RE2 and RE7. Because you got RE7 and then, whoops. You got RE7 and then RE2. I would have swapped them. Yeah, that's what I did. I would have swapped them. For old school purists, this is an outrage. Not really. No, I understand why you would put it at the top of your list. I mean, this is all opinion. Like, it's opinionated, right? It's not. Everybody's list is going to be, based off of their opinions. There's a lot of things that go into, whatever your decisions are. It could be nostalgia purposes. It could be a lot of different reasons. I mean, there's tons of reasons why you would put whatever you're putting at the top of your list. But I stand by what I said before. If you're going to complain about the African thing in RE5, I want to see you complain about the Spanish thing in RE4. Let's see it. But for the rest of us, RE4 was such a perfect mix of horror, was not scary. combat and puzzles. There's puzzles in RE4? Fuck, if I remember there's any puzzles. I don't remember any puzzles in RE4. That it still feels good to play in 2021. Not really. RE4 suffers from a lot of pacing issues. It gets really slow. It gets kind of boring and monotonous. Basically, you shoot the kneecaps and you slash away with your knife, followed by suplexes and kicks or whatever. You get what I'm saying? Like it becomes very formulaic. It's RE4 gets very boring. Maybe that's just me. That can't be just me. The game has so many memorable moments from the first time you meet the chainsaw dude. See, now you're talking about nostalgia purposes, though. For replayability, RE4 is probably one of the lackluster ones for me. To the boss fight on the lake, or the creepy nighttime levels that ramp up the scares and tension. Nothing about RE4 scares me, except Ashley. Yes, Ashley is annoying, and having to worry about her the whole game or the whole time isn't great. But the atmosphere, music, and combat more than helped me get over having to escort the president's daughter. Oh, and let's not forget the attach case. How many games can say that even managing the inventory is wonderful? I didn't like that. I didn't like it. I prefer the old school inventory where it's very item limited. There's a reason I keep buying this game, and it's simply that I can't stop playing Resident Evil 4. In fact, writing all these words about it has me in the mood to have at it once more, now to figure out which console to play on. And you didn't mention the Spanish thing. You didn't mention the Spanish. You cannot judge RE5 for the African thing and not judge RE4 for the Spanish thing. To me, you want to say it? This is racist against Hispanics. I'm Hispanic. This is racist against Hispanics or Spanish people. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. If you're gonna complain about, and I know I said R word before, but I don't care anymore. If you're gonna complain about RE5 being racist, then you have to complain about RE4 being racist as well. You have a white boy killing Spanish people. Come on, come on, dude. Get with the times. Just nah. All right, so let's go ahead and look at his full list slides. So we got Resident Evil 6, Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 5, 0, 3, Veronica, Village, which Village is a numbered series. It's RE8. It's not that it's not numbered. It is numbered. The 8 is in the word Village. Like, it's there. RE2, RE7, and RE4. Look, it's not a horrible list. There's a couple things I would swap here, easy. I would put RE5 as the second worst game, just for me. Again, it's all opinionated. I would move RE3 probably above Code Veronica. RE1 above 0. Because 0 has a lot of problems with the inventory management. It's not an easy game to pick up. 0 is definitely not an easy game to pick up. In fact, I tend to skip it just because it causes frustrations. Plus, a lot of the times when you're playing 0, you tend to just play as Billy because he has more health. He tanks more. It's a very unbalanced game. And because 0 is an unbalanced game, it was a good idea, but just kind of poorly executed because it was unbalanced. So I would drop 0 down. So it would be, for me, on this list, I mean, again, my list would include the Revelations games, and it would include the remakes as well. But on this list, it would go 6, 5, 0, then 1, then Code Veronica, then Village, then 3. Oh, no, I forgot 4. I'm sorry. 6, 5, 0, 1, Code Veronica, 4, 3, Village, 7, 2. Yeah, that would be it. But that's not my full list. So, yeah. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your list down below. I have a lot of problems with this list just because of the things that the person said in it, like the writer. I can't you're complaining about certain things, but then you don't complain about the same, you don't hold the other games to those same regards. You have to. You're going to complain about racism in RE5, where it takes place in Africa, so of course there's going to be Africans. You have to complain about RE4. You have to complain about RE6. that's just what it is. You can't say one thing and then not say it about another one. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.